Committee meeting to order. Amy, would you lead us in the salute to the flag, please?
Attention, salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by emailing a copy of the notice along with the agenda of this meeting to the Press of Atlantic City, Atlantic County Record, Record Journal, and current newspapers stating this meeting would take place 6:30 p.m. on Monday, August 4th, 2014, in the municipal building, Mays Landing, New Jersey. Mrs. Dix?
Here.
Ms. Gatto?
Here.
Mr. Gouchard?
Present.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mayor Silva?
Here. Thank you. Take a moment of silence for private reflection.
God bless you.
Thank you.
The first item on our agenda will be a presentation by Joe Coastal from Oakcrest High School about the welcome wagon. Mr. Coastal?
Thank you very much. I want to begin by thanking the committee for having me tonight and giving me an opportunity to talk to you about some of the really exciting things we're starting at Oakcrest High School this year and some of the ways that we are looking to partner with the community in efforts to improve our place in the community and our place out in Oakcrest. We just to start by giving you a little bit of context, we discovered this year that one troubling trend we see in education nationally is the emergence of freshmen as a group that in need of. Is that me or?
No, Mr. Gouchard. I don't know if it's your phone next to it or not.
Yes, phones on the dais are interfering.
Okay. The emergence of freshmen as a group in need of help. Nationally, freshmen fail more classes than any other year in high school. They are written up more. They have a higher truancy rate than almost any other, than sometimes all the other years combined. Some of the more troubling statistics we see, and not just at Oakcrest but across the nation, are things like when a student is written up his or her freshman year, they are 80% more likely to continue to be written up while a high school student. They're 80% more likely to continue to be disciplined. At Oakcrest, we are trying very much to get out ahead of these stats, to curb them now, and to take a proactive approach to doing a better job of ingraining our freshmen into our community right away. So we're taking a three-pronged approach to the incoming class of 2018. Academically, we're looking to start some freshman curricula at the high school. We're going to use the classroom as a catalyst to arm our students with study skills, leadership skills, life skills as part of their regular curricula. Also, we are looking to start Institute of Peer Mentorship program using our upperclassmen at Oakcrest. We've started an organization called the Link Crew, in which we're hoping to have a one-on-one peer mentorship program at Oakcrest that starts within the next 2 years. One of the things that I'm here tonight to talk to you about is that we're also instituting as part of this program a basis for more activities in the community and going out and making sure that our freshmen feel welcomed and have an ease of transition into the high school. So tomorrow night, one of the transitional programs that we're most excited about will be out on the streets of Hamilton Township. We call it the Welcome Wagon. We have about 150 Oakcrest High School students representing all of our athletic organizations, all of our student organizations throughout the school. They're going to be on a couple of buses, and we are going to basically tour around Hamilton, going to the houses of some of our incoming students who made themselves known to us through social media by tweeting at the high school's accounts and just kind of getting out there and showing that they have Falcon pride. And we're going to go around to see these students at their homes. We're bringing the band, we're bringing the cheerleaders. I think the best way to think about it is sort of like a mini lawn pep rally, I guess, for our incoming high school freshmen. We hope that giving the freshmen an opportunity to touch flesh and shake hands with our principal and our superintendent and maybe even some of our council members, as well as the captains of the teams they want to be a part of, the presidents of the organizations they want to join, will help them feel more comfortable in joining the Oakcrest High School community. And that comfort, we believe, will translate into us starting to address some of these troubling statistics we see with our youngest members of our community. It also gives us an excellent opportunity to be seen around town and to pair up with the township on some things that are important. For instance, tomorrow night is also National Night Out, be taking place at Oakcrest Estates at 5 p.m. They have a whole slew of activities planned, many of which the township has partnered with them on. I know they're having the police dog demonstrations out there. They have vendors. The police will be present there, and we are going to roll this big sort of traveling pep rally right into Oakcrest Estates during the National Night Out and have our students participate in this event as well. So not only will we be welcoming one of our freshman students who lives in Oakcrest Estates tomorrow at late afternoon, but also then together as a community and as a family we'll be able to partake in the National Night Out events. We see this freshman transition program not only as an opportunity for us to get ahead of some of these troubling statistics we see, but also to sort of reinforce Oakcrest's place here in Hamilton Township as the high school for the Hamilton Township community, and just make sure that lack of air conditioning is not the first thing that comes to people's minds when they think of Oakcrest High School. For instance, Mayor Gatto has talked to us about participating in the 60th anniversary of the Halloween parade here at Hamilton Township. We're thinking about running a class versus class competition, building floats, and having an even heightened presence. I know we always volunteer to be a part of the parade, but this year we'd like to make sure that we're out in greater number. We're going to try to leverage social media, Twitter, Facebook, any really program we can that comes our way to get the information out to greater numbers of our students and make sure that we are showing up for these types of township events. Just to make sure that we are as much of a partnership as we can in helping our students. There's that old adage that it takes a village, and it just might take a township for us here. But we appreciate any support that can be given, and I appreciate an opportunity to speak to you about it tonight.
Joe, how big's your freshman class, the incoming class?
We have a smaller freshman class. I mean, Oakcrest has gone through a lot of transitions lately. There's a lot of competition in public school right now. The school choice program, magnets, things like that has sort of altered the way the number of students coming in and out. So we have a smaller freshman class this year, though we still are. I want to say we're about 250, maybe 300, somewhere between 250 and 300.
Regarding National Night Out, is that going to be focused primarily at the clubhouse at Oakcrest Estates?
Yes, I believe so. I've talked with Mark Williams, who's organizing the events for the Oakcrest Estates Association, and for the most part, they're going to be concentrating in that clubhouse
location
area towards the front. And he's got a lot of things planned, and we were on the phone, and he was just running off all the things going on. So it should take up, a good chunk of that complex. We're going to welcome one of the students towards the back in Cardigan Court, and then we're going to come back around and bring our students over to the National Night Out and hopefully bolster the
Attendance.
the attendance of that event in the community. We'll be in Laureldale tomorrow night on Laurel Street. We'll be at Chancellor
Place.
You already told me, Mary. At Chancellor Place, and then we will be at Victoria's Crossing as well. So
You also have a lot of good opportunity in the community. You should reach out to the Mays Landing Merchants Association.
yes.
They run a lot of wonderful events throughout the year in our community.
Yeah, they do. And we've often volunteered at, I think,
And I
as
think
a
they
Founder's
use them
Day
like-
and that sort of
They use them
the
for
summer block party.
volunteers,
and
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important. They learn to volunteer young enough, it becomes part of it, and then it becomes part of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually one of the tenets we want to bring into our freshman curriculum this year is this idea of service learning and community involvement and get our students sort of completely intertwined with the community as quickly and as young as we can. We think it'll help them, and it'll be good for us, too.
It's great.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I love your enthusiasm and
Thank you.
your energy. Are you on the guidance staff there or a teacher
Yeah, I
there,
know.
or-
I just realized I didn't say. I was a teacher. I taught at Oakcrest for 11 years. I was the advisor to student council. I was very involved in student life there. Currently, I am the supervisor of language arts.
Now, is this part of a larger effort or
Yeah, and
just
actually-
what sparked this?
I'm sorry?
What sparked this? What is,
Well, I mean, we just saw a need more than anything.
Okay.
I mean, to be honest,
Yeah,
when
all
I
the
came...
stuff with regard to the statistics you mentioned earlier, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely saw a troubling trend with our freshman students, and the failure rate to me was the largest one. Programs like this, if they're well-sustained, if they're funded over the course of 4 years, can have like a 75% impact on student graduation rates. Students are more likely to, if they're involved in a club, they're more likely to pass more classes. So, I mean, the connection between community, feeling comfortable at a bigger school, and doing well and succeeding is just, it's undeniable. So
Right.
we've actually seen now, Cedar Creek has adopted a similar program. Absegami, actually, I do need to say, did have a freshman transition program to begin with, but I think the ambition of ours is catching on. There were times this summer that I was trying to go out and meet every single incoming freshman. Enough people told me that was crazy, but I do believe that we can grow this from 4 to 10 to 20 and just, make this an ongoing effort, especially if more and more people in the community reach out to us. And the response from merchants and community members has been amazing. Shepherd Buses has donated our transportation. Godfather's Pizza in Consumer Square is going to be providing our winning freshmen with dinner that night. A local ice cream truck is going to be donating ice cream. So, we already have a tremendous outpouring of help from the community. We appreciate it.
Sounds great.
And we were excited I happened to have attended the Principals Advisory Council meeting because I wanted to meet the new superintendent, and that's where Joe and I started talking. And when he said, oh, you should, come check this out on this date, and I was like, ooh, it's National Night Out. And instead of it being a negative thing, we said, well, hey, how can we possibly bring these together? And we have our police department and our fire department being a part of the Welcome Wagon as well. So it'll be really an awesome community thing as part of the National Night Out as well. So not only will National Night Out get the attention that it deserves, but now will this program from both sides, which I think is really awesome.
Yeah, I met with Mr. Jacobs and the chief of police, and they were just so accommodating and willing to help. And I think these kinds of partnerships are what we both need. And again, just to reaffirm, there's an Oakcrest is here. We are the community's high school, and we want to stay that.
Thank you.
I was wondering, are you going to have any shirts on that will identify you as Oakcrest, or?
Boy, are we ever going to have shirts on? Yes, our students are very good at, not only will we have a 6-foot falcon with us, but our students will be dressed in their Oakcrest gear. Definitely. Spirit parades, we have people who are painting faces. I actually got a phone call from a parent today, and when I picked up the phone, she's like, well, I have the window paint. And I was like, oh, okay, but they're going to be painting Oakcrest on their windows, and we have a big caravan of parents following us. I'd like to welcome any parents who are here tonight to join us tomorrow. We'll be leaving from the high school at 4 o'clock. All students who participate need to have a permission slip that's available. It's downloadable at oakcrest.net. So anybody who wants to get that and get their students involved, we'd really appreciate it.
Does that
Students
mean I
may
should-
not drive, however. I just want to say that. Students cannot drive as part of the Welcome Wagon. Students participating need to ride the bus.
Joe, does that mean I should wear my blue Oakcrest shirt?
I was hoping you'd have it on tonight.
Well,
Are you going to have any ways, or are you establishing any metrics for this program? You mentioned a 75% improvement. Is there going to be any way to follow up on the impact of the program?
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking, I think events are probably the hardest metric to judge. This transition summertime event is going to spill into a welcome week. So we're putting a lot of effort, a lot of resources into getting all of our student organizations together to do one event a day from September 2nd when school starts all the way to the 19th, which is our first home football game, which will sort of, be our grand finale, so to speak. We're going to have a bonfire and a tailgating event for freshmen at this game. The other two are a little bit easier to measure the effectiveness of. So for instance, our peer mediation program, we're going to hope that that's going to bring down the number of referrals that we have for our freshman class. We really want to institute a layer of socially motivated intervention prior to the traditional of writing students up or looking at detentions that lead into suspensions and whatnot. I really think that we're at the forefront of this, and you're going to see this more and more at public schools throughout the nation, that there is a sort of a proactive approach to dealing with student behavior, because we're just not being effective. Punitive sort of punishment is not working. Students, when they get written up, are just more likely to get in trouble again. Instead, I think we really need to get to the core of what's causing a student to have behavioral issues, deal with those sort of catalyst issues that are making that happen, and start to have social, peer-motivated interventions in student lives earlier in their career. So if we see those numbers come down, that'll be one way we'll be able to gauge the effectiveness of the program. On an academic level, I think it'll also come down to our regular array of metrics. We're not short on metrics in public education today, especially with the park coming and with the Common Core being instituted. If we can see a greater level of achievement among our freshman class, and again, nationally, freshmen are the lowest achieving of all the secondary ed classes. That's true at Oakcrest, and it's true throughout the greater Egg Harbor district, and it's true of Atlantic County, and it's true of New Jersey, and it's just, that's what's motivated us to really try to get out in front of this, and I just could not be more passionate about bringing this to fruition, so. we're really
Can
excited.
you, can you tell me, in what ways have you trained the people that are going out with you to meet, greet, and, show some peer mediation, so to speak? Do you have a handbook that goes with this, or,
Well, no, we don't quite have a handbook yet, but we did do a 3-hour professional development session this summer, which I ran for our faculty who are going to be going out with us tomorrow. And really, it was about overwhelmingly just dealing with freshmen in the classroom and sort of trying to look at their problems in a more proactive way. But there was also training so that those faculty members could turnkey training with their students. Our student council, as Mayor Gatto will attest, is already well-trained in this sort of activity. And they have been doing that for years, well before I showed up at Oak Crest. They do leadership development training, they do leadership conferences. So this is the core group of students who will run this program. Also, what I have found is that the peer mediation students are already in place at Oak Crest. Our teen center does a boys group and a girls group that they meet with every week. The guidance department already has peer mediators trained. What my program is trying to do, more than sort of create that, is just to corral them, make them one effort, and to focus specifically on that troubled freshman group.
And have that bigger impact.
Yeah, I think that training has been ongoing. It will continue to be ongoing. But to specifically answer your question, yes, we did devote some professional development among the faculty this year, and those programs have already transpired this summer.
Well, we
Okay.
thank you. Your enthusiasm is contagious.
Thank
So-
you.
And Rodney
I
and I
really,
are ready to go back to high school.
Joe,
We'd love
what
to have
year
you.
were you Teacher of the Year?
2010, I think I was 2010.
And I think
teacher
we
of the
can
year,
see
yeah.
why, because Joe's pretty awesome.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and thanks for the time tonight.
You're
I
very
really
welcome.
appreciate
I wish you well, and I wish your program much success.
it. Thank you very much, and all are welcome. Tomorrow night, 4 o'clock.
We'll be
okay?
there.
See you,
Thank you.
Joe.
All right.
Thank you.
That's in the front of
Great
Oak
job.
Crest?
Before I continue, I just want to explain to everyone, little by little, we're removing the pews in the audience here, but that's not to make you look like we're more crowded and more people attend. It's that we're getting them,
Reupholstered.
We thought that was Democrat and this was Republican.
no, we are getting them reupholstered, and they'll be painting them. That's the last part of the project in this room. As you know, it's been painted by our employees, and they did a phenomenal job in here. Mike, I believe what they'll be carpeting too? The carpeting, and I think that's the last thing in completing much of the work that had to be done in this building. So just an explanation in order.
Okay.
Okay, next item on our agenda is, let's see, there's no adjournment to executive session, there's no confirmation, addition and deletion of late items for consideration tonight.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions or comments to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Early public comment.
Mayor, no one has signed up.
No one has signed up on that, okay? I'll digress 1 minute. On our seats tonight, we had this packet. It was sent into the township about an address on Beacon Avenue, Mays Landing, with some difficulties. Mike, this issue is being taken care of?
Yes, we're already working on it.
Because looking at it, it looks very serious, okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to put that to bed. Okay. Next item is discussions. Formal action may be taken. A, post-Sandy planning grant. A, authorize application to the NJDCA for post-Sandy planning grant funding for historic Mays Landing neighborhood plan and preliminary investigation and redevelopment plan for the historic Mays Landing. Michael?
Yes, Mayor. The post-Sandy planning grant, as you know, we had a presentation a few weeks ago, and they listed some priorities, and the number one priority was an economic development plan for Mays Landing, and the area in need of redevelopment study / economic development plan for historic Mays Landing, needs analysis and revitalization plan. These two grants, number 2 and 3 on your agenda, are conditioned on receiving the grants to do the work. In other words, we wouldn't go forward if we didn't get the grants. But that's to take the next step in the post-Sandy planning grant process.
So we'll be getting the 48,000 and the 29,000 before we board that,
Before we
right?
execute a contract, we'd make sure we have the money, yes.
Okay.
Mike, in that packet, is there anything else? Let me think.
Well,
Okay.
we had the whole big presentation on the work that the group had done
Yep.
prior, and this was when they selected kind of their priority items and their plan, their project plan on what they're pursuing in what order and that kind of thing, so
Yes.
it's like the next step in the wheel, right?
The Smart Growth Committee met on this on July 22nd and reviewed it with Phil and Judy and I.
It's all contingent on getting the grant, though,
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
As Judy
Yes.
asked. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so
Make-
what's
make sure that
your
we're-
pleasure for the first one?
I'll make the motion to authorize the application.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Let's get a voice roll call on that, Ms. Anderson.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. And number two, I'll just take these as they come. Accept proposal from Clark, Caton, Heinz, and award a contract to them for preparation of the historic Mays Landing Neighborhood Plan contingent upon receipt of the post-Sandy planning grant funds, a cost of $48,200.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Three, accept the proposal from Clark, Caton, Heinz, and award the contract to them for the preparation of a preliminary investigation and redevelopment plan for historic Mays Landing contingent upon the receipt of the post-Sandy planning grant funds, cost to be $29,000.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments to the motions? Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Good, thank you. Six, there's no introduction of ordinances. Seven, the consent agenda.
Could we pull B out, please?
B.
Actually, why don't we just do them separately? There's only four, and I want to talk about B and D
No,
both.
There's seven.
There's seven, there's additions.
I beg your pardon, that's right, on the late list.
I'll move 7A, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
I have a question about F.
All
right, so I'll do-
Pull them out again.
7A through H minus B and F.
Second.
Motion
And
is...
D.
I thought you said D.
I said
I'm
B,
sorry, I thought you
B,
said
D, and F.
Okay.
Why don't
Minus
you just
B,
take them
D,
one
and
at a
F.
time and
Thank you,
save
Joan.
a lot of aggravation?
Well, I'm moving 7A, C, E, G, H.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's take B out. Authorize the amendment to the Township Policies and Procedures Handbook to include changes to direct deposit policy in order to incorporate provisions of the recently adopted ordinance that mandates employee participation in direct deposit. Aileen?
My concern on this is understanding which payroll it's going to start, number one, but more importantly, we are amending the policy book that was adopted April 7th, and I don't believe it's been printed yet. Rodney and I sat on a policy committee at the Board of Ed, and we would discuss policies before we would adopt them as a nine-member board. And in this case, this one is getting attention, but other things in the policy book are not getting attention. My concern is if we go to the printer, there may be errors in the policy book, and I want to bring that up at the next meeting. I will be listing discussion items. So I just want this pulled out tonight for the purposes of putting it on the record that I hope this is not leading to a printing of the book, because I believe there are errors that need to be changed before we do go to the printer.
No, errors, by errors, you mean other things in the policy.
Not this policy, but in the manual itself, because of the
Others, correct.
expense of the printing of it. I think we need to have conversation on it at the next meeting.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, so I think, first of all, the intent is to get this amendment completed so that we can go to print.
Correct.
And I think that is because we all received a red line copy of the policy manual and reviewed it and approved it previously, if I remember
We did.
correctly.
It's been reviewed, approved by the committee and by the labor attorney,
Right.
and it's ready to go to print. We wanted to put this in there before we printed it.
Right.
Now, if there's something that needs changing, you can get me the information. But we do need to get it printed soon, even if it means we have to do supplements. We just need to get it printed so we can get it out and get everybody to sign for the new one.
Right.
Because there are some new policies in it.
Yeah, I do remember us having extensive conversation on various
Yeah.
sections, so.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Yeah, I think that maybe, just go forward with this approval, and then if there's other things, that are brought up, then, address them at that time.
Just a question, when you talk about errors, are you talking about typographical errors?
No.
or- So not errors, you're talking about actual policy?
Correct.
Okay, we got you.
I'll bring it up under Township Committee comments, but I just wanted to put it out here now, that I have a concern.
All right, I'll make a motion to authorize the amendment.
Second,
The motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. D, resolution authorizing Phoenix Advisors LLC to direct the undertaking of a continuing disclosure review and authorizing participation on the municipality's continuing disclosure cooperation initiative of the Division of Enforcement of the United States Securities and Exchange Commission.
I would like to know if, and I apparently left it home on the dining room table when I was highlighting on it, we received an alert from the local finance, not from the local finance, from the League of Municipalities, talked about, Mrs. Anderson sent it to us, but she didn't send it to Mr. Sandman. We have a requirement to prepare secondary market disclosures for our bondholders, and I'm trying to determine whether that League of Municipalities alert and this contract is going to cure the omission of not having an updated secondary market reporting annually, or whatever it is that needs to be available to the bondholders. It's a secondary market issue.
Let me, if I could start, the notice went out, there's a lot of New Jersey municipalities that it went out across the state, and the goal of this is to comply with that, so that we stay in compliance.
So that we get into compliance, because we
Get and
don't have
stay.
one.
Get and stay. We used to be in compliance, but we want to get into compliance and stay in compliance.
So this will be an annual event that this company will keep us updated, so we meet that requirement.
Yes, I want
All
to say
right.
yes, but I don't, yes.
All right, that's what I wanted to make sure, that we were curing an issue.
You all right with that now?
Yes.
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion is second.
Sorry,
Any
Bob,
other
did you-
questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. F, approve the transient vendor licenses. 1, Kimberly Bond Food Vending at boat races on Lake Lenape, September 6th through September 8th, 2014, and 2, Jack Lyon Equipment Auction at the Atlantic City Racecourse.
Okay, my question about the food vendor, okay, is that, do they qualify by having their workers' comp up to date?
They are not hired by us. They just get a permit to be there through the boat races. The township has nothing to do with them.
Yeah, but the veteran set aside, I mean, when we were talking about the vendor going to sell hot dogs, we required that they had workers' comp, and that they weren't hired by the township.
Well, no.
That's because the township would have been in direct privity of contract with them, and it was a requirement of the township. This is quite different.
Well, I really don't see that. I see a lot of these events that have happened, and I don't see where they have workers' comp and all the other things that are required in our township. I just don't see, why one is penalized and this is not. So I'd sort of like to see the statutes that are involved in that.
Well, is it the understanding that this vendor is not going to be on a township-owned property?
It is.
The events would be on property, but the Cove is a program that we operate and administer, and we were looking for a vendor to do work at the Cove. This program is not one that we operate and administer. This person would be there at the behest of someone else, so the chances of them getting on our workers' comp, if I'm saying this correctly, are, we're not employing them, we're not asking them to be there. We're letting the event take place on our property. It's not, in other words, it's not the
Oh,
code.
but if the event takes place on your property and something, drastic happens, and it's on your property,
Yeah, they do.
will the insurance company come after us?
Well, we would make them have liability insurance to run to run this event on our property. They'll have to have liability insurance.
They will have to have liability insurance. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sticky wicket here, because what's good for the good, I know I have workers' comp, and, it's very costly.
Yes.
But I don't understand why these vendors can come on here and just not have those things that we require, say, of our veteran that was going to be selling hot dogs on the beach.
Is this event being sponsored by government or or privately sponsored?
It's private.
Winding River Boating Association.
It's private.
Oh, it's a privately sponsored
See,
event.
Do they have a workers' comp? The
The issue is,
the
Judy,
Winding River, whatever?
they have liability to cover they'll name the township as an added additional insured on the liability policy.
Okay.
The difference is, this is a 2-day event being run by a private entity, as compared to the hot dog vendor who would have been bidding directly with the township and contracting directly with the township. And should that person or that entity have an injured employee and not have workers' comp, there is a possibility that the township could be liable under those circumstances. This is quite different. There is no privity of contract between the Township of Hamilton and the 2-day vendor. So the aspect of an uninsured workers' comp claim would not fall back on us. The liability insurance would cover us for any other injuries.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but initially when Mr. Jackson went to sell his hot dogs, he was an independent person vendor for several days, but he was required to do all these things in order to sell his hot dogs there.
That's because we were asking him to do that, whereas this is a private event person asking a vendor to do something, and we simply have a responsibility with the transient vendor license. If they're coming into our town and they don't normally work in our town, we have the vendor license requirement.
No, I think Mr. Jackson was asking to do it. We weren't asking him. He was asking to be allowed, as a veteran, to sell his hot dogs, and was required to spend over $1,000 for workers' comp, which eliminated his bid for, to go there, because he just could not afford it, plus the liability. And, how many hot dogs would you have to sell in order to pay off a $1,500 insurance? And this has always bugged me, so this is why I'm bringing it up. But, I see where you're coming from, where it's a couple days and people are coming in as independent, but they still have to have the liability insurance.
That is true.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, item F,
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it. Any questions or comments to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, personnel, there aren't any. Approvals, minutes of July 21st, 2014, regular meeting.
So moved.
I'll second it. I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes of July 7th, 2014, executive session.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Payroll and bills totaling $6,667,518.26.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay. Reports. Mr. Administrator.
Nothing to add to my written report, Mayor.
Thank you.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Nice shirt, Bob.
Thank you. All right, I've got to break ranks tonight. I have something in addition to my written
Go ahead.
report. Myself, Deputy Mayor Gatto, and Mrs. Dix met with the Brewster Drive homeowners, I guess it was last Thursday before last, to discuss the disposition of the funds that were offered by the bonding company to resolve their obligation for the site improvements. We talked about a number of issues regarding the outstanding punch list and what the obligations of the residents would be as it related to completion of the outstanding punch list items. Ms. Amani was also there from Mr. Sandman's office, and she's doing some research as to what the responsibility will be of the residents if, in fact, the township turns over that money to the association for completion of the improvements. The residents are amenable to taking the funds, but they just need to see what their obligation is going to be if they in fact take the funds. And we discussed some issues with regard to some existing utility poles, and I think Township Committee was copied on an email today that the electric company would in fact remove that one existing pole on the west side of the site. So we're working through what has to be done in order for them to accept the money. They still have to create an association. And then we'll see what direction we're going to go as to what gets completed if, in fact, we do the transition and the township does turn the money over to the association.
Bob, I've been having a lot of time to think about this. I've sat through that planning board approval when Dr. Ira Mendelson was here in this room getting the approval, and I have real concerns as to there's like $40,000 available, and what's the real amount of money that's going to be needed? Do we have any kind of a current cost estimate? Because I really don't want these people to get stuck with a pig in a poke.
Well, we do not have a cost estimate at this point in time, but that is why Mrs. Monti is looking at what their obligation would be to continue to complete the site improvements if, in fact, they have the money. My understanding is it would be the same as the bond company. The bonding company has the obligation to complete what they can up to the maximum penal sum of the bond, and I would assume that it's going to be the same for the residents. If that money is turned over, they have the obligation to complete what they can with the funds that are left in the bond. But Ms. Amani is going to confirm that. She's doing some research on that issue right now.
What about the posting like of a 4-year maintenance bond or a 2-year, whatever the term, whatever term meaning in number of years?
There will be, we had that discussion with the bonding company when they came in and started doing the work. There will be no maintenance bond for that project.
All right.
Yeah, and if you remember, Eileen, from the discussion, the question that is being looked at legally is what of the site improvements that are currently required are going to be absolutely obligated, or can we waive some of those things, like, I think some were like trees along the roadside, things like that.
The biggest issue was obviously trying to get the basin to function in accordance with the plan. The last house that was built had probably the most extensive landscaping associated with it. Right, it went from the lot on the left-hand side, the last lot on the left-hand side, all the way out to West Jersey Avenue. And that was one of the bigger concerns that the residents had, whether or not they would be obligated to put that landscaping in.
Right.
As it stands now, we haven't done a formal count of what's missing, but if you take a look at the trees around the basin, they've matured well, they create a nice buffer. There may be a few street trees missing, but I think the majority of the landscaping has in fact been installed, and I don't think there's going to be a big concern with regard to the cost of the additional landscaping. I think the biggest issue is going to be what the residents are going to have to do to get the basin to function. And I know that they're also trying to partner up with the owner that bought the last several lots from the bank and bought the basin. So hopefully there are going to be some type of partnership with those residents and that owner to try to get something done in that basin.
Right, what we suggested to the residents that night was that they work on getting an estimate of exactly what needs to be done and what would that cost be. And then their intent is to work with the owner of the basin lot to say, you know, can you cover X amount? And then we know we have this availability of funds to cover the rest. So that's kind of the approach that they're trying to take if the basin owner is going to be amenable, which I think based on the conversation, it seemed that he was at least open to discussion. So I guess we'll see where it goes, but
Well,
I thought it was a good, productive
I
meeting.
also think we've come a long way with that from the initial discussions when there was the developer problem and the bonding company did step in as you worked and you were very familiar with Mr. Solicitor. I think they did come a long way. And obviously, the fact that there's going to be some money left over to address those more serious items that need attention and ongoing attention, I think it's positive in light of what had happened there.
No, absolutely. Considering where the development was at the time the bonding company stepped in and as to where the development is now, they're light years ahead of where they were at that time.
And that is to your credit. You know, just to reflect back, you authorized me to take action against the bonding company.
And that got them moving.
And the bonds inure to the benefit of the township to complete what is required by the decision and resolution. And the bonding company stepped in, and they did what they did, and it was laudable. At the end of the day, there's 40,000 left, and it's not enough to do everything that needs to be done. But the developer's gone.
It's true.
So my thought and my direction to my associate was that whatever we're going to do, before we release the money, it's got to be with the condition precedent that what that money's going to be used for.
Right.
So they have to prioritize what is necessary. To my way of thinking, it's never going to take care of the basin. But if we can get cooperation elsewhere, that's a wonderful thing.
Right.
But what the Township Committee did was took action that brought action to a community, a development in our community.
Well, look how long it's taken too, Bob. When you think about it, whether it was Homewood Court or Tavistock or Horizons
Wexford?
in Wexford, it takes time. And I mean, we're still dealing with Tavistock and Horizons, and there's a nervous anticipation by a lot of the residents because they bought into a lifestyle that they would like to see happen. And for many of them, it's a slow go. And there's been a lot of issues, as you know well. Look at that engineer report, and not to digress, but I am, because they all seem to fold in together because there's never enough
Similar
money to
issue.
do everything they're supposed to do.
With one exception, Glen Eyre.
Yes, it's true.
And what happened in Glen Eyre is truly remarkable.
Corrected, thank you. Okay.
Does that mean Woods Landing? What's Glen Eyre?
Glen Eyre is a development
golf
where
course.
we retained the Banks Council to take action against the performance bond.
That's the one next to the country club.
Right,
I know what you meant.
okay.
That was Glen Eyre 1, 2, and 3, that's why I wasn't sure. My question is, Bob, and I'm kind of thinking back to Woods Landing, when that was a bankrupt development. The action was taken at the planning board to revise the site plan to release some of the requirements. Would this situation have to go back to the planning board to amend the site plan to delete the planting of 10 more trees or whatever it might be? Or is that something that would be done at this level?
It may or it may not. It depends on whether it's substantial.
Right.
Um,
Which is what we discussed.
If it were top coat of the road or something like that, definitely it would have to go back.
Right.
But they've taken care of those issues.
Correct.
If it's, the issue with the drainage basin is going to be something that has to be dealt with in the future. But if it's a material alteration for the decision and resolution, it probably should go back. But in a negotiated settlement where the bonding company has stepped up and paid the entirety of the penal sum, I think you got to work with them.
I'm just questioning what the process would be expected so they understand and we understand. That was my purpose.
That's what Diana has to
depends
follow
on-
up on, I think. That's what we were waiting for her back.
Right.
Right.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Bob. Anything else?
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Aileen?
Except I want to point out that my entire life I have been colorblind until I saw Bob's shirt tonight.
I've worn the black bow tie
Touche.
well with that, Bob.
Next time, Mayor.
All right.
I like that color.
The topic of the policy manual. On May 19th, I raised a question here about vacation time. Rolling the calendar all the way back, Silva, Gatto, Pritchard, Gaskell, and Nichols in 2008 adopted a salary ordinance, And part of that salary ordinance, it went to, and I'm only focusing on the topic of vacation time at this point. The ordinance of 2008 went to a two-tiered vacation time. So anyone hired January 1, 2009 or later would be on a lesser vacation day entitlement than pre-existing employees. In 2012, Fiscal Vitality had worked since 2010 and 11 and 12 to come up with a new plan for the future of employees and hiring at this township. I did speak to Charles Kane maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe a little more, 2 months ago about this. This past week, I spoke to Bruce Stry and Wayne Choice right here where I'm sitting after the zoning board meeting, and I asked them if they had any recollection of when Fiscal Vitality came in October of 2012 with this new ordinance. Did they have any intention of increasing the number of vacation days that were being allotted in that new ordinance? That new ordinance does say in one of the whereas clauses, it totally erases Chapter 66 and Chapter 80 of our code book. But interestingly, we need to revisit what was the intent of the Fiscal Vitality when they came in, and they're saying to me last week it was to cap the number of employees that could be put on the payroll without voting on an ordinance to change it. My concern is that because of this, in effect, a rollback, it has triggered other problems that are being looked at, and that's kind of how the whole thing is kind of mushrooming. So I want to list on the next agenda, the ordinance of 2012 from Fiscal Vitality and the input they want to bring into the discussion as a discussion item on August 18th would be vacation days and the two-tier plan that was in the 2008 ordinance, which passed on a 4-to-1 vote. If it's intended that that was to remain in the 2012, we need to correct it, and that's why I'd like this clarified before we print this book.
Well,
It wasn't in the book, actually.
You said a lot, and you actually got me at a disadvantage here because we didn't know anything about this, okay? So it's going to take us a little bit of time to look into that.
That's fine, no, that's why we'll list it for the next agenda, and we've got 2 weeks to get everything together.
Get to it.
Well, I'm going to list it on the agenda as an
If I
elected
don't have all
official.
the information done by then, how are we going to have an intelligent conversation?
Well, I would hope Fiscal Vitality will be ringing in.
Anything else, Aileen?
No, I don't think so, not tonight. I got to the Mississippi Firehouse Car Show, but then I don't know if their Unity Day got rained out. I didn't ride up there in the rain. And I missed the Wounded Warrior Pancake Breakfast at Applebee's on Saturday also. So, thank you.
Thank you. Rodney?
Yes, regarding the Mitzvah Community Day, I was there, and the attendance was down, obviously,
Yeah, the
because of the weather. I would like to say that I think all of us can be thankful that the transportation bill, the Congress did pass a sort of an interim bill that provides transportation funding until May of next year. As we have talked about before, that funding was about to expire in August, and of course, all of our, or many of our transportation projects within the state are very, in fact, within the country, are very dependent on that funding. The President asked for $392 billion, and that was a multi-year bill. The Congress did not want to address it and has postponed it until May of next year. Well, I guess they'll go through this again, but at least we have a bill, and that's good news.
It is good news.
Yeah. I had an occasion, an unfortunate occasion, of having to travel out to California to attend a funeral. But I did know it. I was in Davis, and I don't know how many of you have been to Davis, California, but it's really nice to see all the bicycles out there. They're everywhere. They're parked, bicycle parking everywhere. Of course, part of the reason for that was clear when I went to visit the campus, and I could not find a place to park for a few minutes for less than $8. So under those circumstances, I guess people would ride their bikes. But it was good to see that, and it'd be nice if we could see more of that around the country.
That and roller skates, right, Judy?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Hey, I've been riding
Skate
my
across
bike.
the country.
I participated in the VFW coin drop the weekend before last, and aside the fact that was 8 hours of standing in the hot sun dodging traffic, and I didn't see too many people I recognized, but I did see the mayor, and...
I dumped my change purse out.
That's right. We appreciate your contribution. Just to let you know that that's very helpful to the VFW and to the other organizations that do this that do coin drops. Just a reminder, or not a reminder, just to inform you that we do have citizens in the community that are very much interested in a lot of things, including Sustainable New Jersey. There is a green team that's being established. They're meeting at the library. They're meeting on the first Thursday of the month at 5:30. And I certainly encourage any of you who are interested to attend. It's something that will be brought up in the township in a few meetings. And also, and we have another member of the community that's actually having a presentation at our house concerning water, the resource of water. And if anybody's interested, we can probably let you get some information on it.
Pat
That's all I
Johnson.
have.
Thank you. Judy?
Now, this might be outside of our community, but it really isn't. The response to the concerts, the free concerts, was outstanding. 60,000 people. That means there are people who will come to Atlantic City. And they're all country, so let's say there's a lot more to be had other than, the country venue. But it was thrilling to see that because, we've had such negative news about, Atlantic City, and we know down the road it will impact our taxes as well, and especially for the county and hence for us. So, I hope that, Mayor Guardian is truthful, saying that there is a viable candidate to buy Showboat, and also there are 7 different offers on the table for Rebel. But I feel as though, just like anything, I was talking to my employee that works at Johnny Rockets, and she says, that area is just dead. People aren't there. They're just and she's worked at Johnny Rockets and Showboat. And I think maybe that's an area where they have to liven up what's happening on the beach, or, another still, I don't know. Of course, everything takes money. But on the other side, the flip side, I wonder how much free was. A free concert, how much did it take to get that concert going? I'm sure that Blake Shelton didn't do that for free. I'm sure that all the people that worked on the beach didn't do that for free. But it was an investment in their community. Maybe we can, that's what we do with the Mays Landing Merchants. That's what we do with the Hometown Celebration. And I was, thinking of, yes, there is an expense, but the expense is, in this case, in our Mays Landing Merchants and the Halloween, it's well worth it, so.
Thank you, Judy.
Yeah, let me see. Everyone go to National Night Out. And everybody is, we have a meeting on the first Monday of the month. Merchants has a meeting on the first Wednesday of the month. And now this green, what is it?
First Thursday.
First Thursday, so every night you're out. My own, contribution to that is maybe make it the second Thursday of the month or something like that to get more people.
You can come to the
Okay.
meeting and propose that.
What?
You can come to the meeting and propose
I
that.
certainly will.
We have the planning board on the first Thursday here, first and third Thursdays. So we're in conflict.
There's no
Third
perfect
Thursday?
day.
No, exactly.
Not exactly what they meant when you signed up for Township Committee and they said 2 meetings a month, right?
There you go. Is that it, Judy?
That's it.
Thank you. Amy?
I do want to commend Mitzvah on the car show and the day that they did have out there, because
Yeah, it was
it was a really
It was a good one.
great showing. I think we were pleasantly surprised at just the number of cars and trucks and motorcycles that they had. It was really nicely laid out across a couple blocks. Really well done, just in terms of getting the community out. It was just a really nice day, and I did run into Mr. Gouchard, not run into him, but ran across him when I was running to that event from the Laureldale yard sale, which their attendance was probably a little bit lower than last year as well,
Yeah.
too, but I think because of the rain. But it was another wonderful event, and our fire departments just do a lot of work aside from fighting fires, and really should be commended for the work that they do. The only other thing I wanted to touch on was, at our last meeting, we received a memo that showed a information request, I think, from someone asking about various points, but specifically asked for information regarding my healthcare opt-out money and any correspondence related to that. I have no idea what the issue is or what the question is, but I do want to state for the record that for the first 6 years that I was on Township Committee, I donated back my opt-out money because I felt it was the right thing to do in the economic times that we were in, with asking for furloughs and laying off employees, and that was a commitment that I made. And I know Cindy and Richard Tuthill both have all the documentation to support that if there is a question. And last year was the only year I have accepted the opt-out, and that is because I was out on disability dealing with my Crohn's disease, which is aggravated by stress, much of which is brought on by this dais. So, it was the only year I took it. So, there's documentation supporting that as well, so I don't know what the question is. I don't expect an answer. I'm just putting it out there on the record. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting, Rodney said he had to pay $8 for parking. As interesting as Judy's comments was about the free concert in Atlantic City,
$20, was it?
no, Caesars charged $50 to park. Now, keeping that in mind, the county exec convened a meeting at 1333 Atlantic Avenue with many of the mayors from all 23 of the municipalities in the county, and it was with the Assistant Labor Commissioner. And the focus of the meeting was to talk about the 6,500-plus people that potentially could be laid off with the closing of, or the sale of some of the casinos. Interesting to note that in Atlantic County, 4,823 of those employees live in our 23 municipalities. 404.
Say it again, how much?
4,823. And of that, 414 families in our township would be affected. 616 families in Egg Harbor would be affected. So you could see the impact of the layoffs are held.
No question.
One of the thrusts of the meeting was to, and Mayor Guardian was there, he said Atlantic City has to change the whole way they do business there. It's not just for casino gambling. They should have other type of events in that community. The concert's a great thing. I mean, the concerts on the beach, the free concerts, other types of activities. They got the air show. Many of us remember years ago when they had the ice capades.
Yes.
Remember when the circus came to Atlantic City, when they had many conventions coming there. So the closure of the casinos, to me, hurts Atlantic City in this regard, because when they're trying to impact this area with conventions, why close the hotels? I mean, they touted for years. I mean, if you look at Atlantic City, in my estimation, and I came here in 1976, before the referendum went through, and I did business with many of those casinos that opened up, because when I worked for the bank, I had a lot of involvement with them. The casino referendum never did what it was supposed to do in Atlantic City. The casino operators took the money and ran. The state took the money and shoved it up in North Jersey. And what happened? We just got hit with all the issues. We got hit with being a developmental type of community like Egg Harbor and Galloway, and we took all the other problems that came in. Now, the big issue comes in, if all those people do get laid off, the one question I asked them, it's all well and good that you have your workforce down here to register everybody so they get their benefits and they get training. Since there'll be no extension of unemployment at the end of the 26 weeks, what happens when there's no jobs? People still have to support their families. I heard today on the radio coming over to the meeting tonight that already one of the casinos in Maryland already hired, I think, 50 people who had worked in our casino. And it's going to force a lot of people out of our state to find a way to support their family. I mean, that impact is going to affect all of us in our communities. It's going to affect our tax collections. It's going to affect our foreclosures, as you know, Bob, and you keep busy with that every day. It's going to affect our local businesses. It's going to have an impact on everything. So I think the positive way to look at it is the generation of business. I mean, we do have a very viable community. We happen to be at the crossroads of the county. We have a great retail center with the mall, Wrangell Barrow Square, Consumer Square, Festival Mall, Walmart, et cetera. All of that is good for the area, and it creates a lot of employment. We have the county seat here. We have a lot of projects started, and I think that's going to help for a little bit, but more has to happen. And I think all the education in the world is not going to make a difference when you're out of work, because if there's no jobs, I mean, people are going to have to look, and they're going to have to make big decisions of where they're going to live, and I think we all have to pay attention to that moving forward. So I'm pretty optimistic still that this area can develop. I mean, they've touted the beach and the boardwalk in Atlantic City for how long? Years, right? Why does Ocean City make it? Why does Wildwood make it? Why do the other towns in South Jersey make it? They have to do things in Atlantic City, and they have to do it in a friendly manner so that people want to come back and they want to move in this area. So pretty much that's it, but I thought the meeting went well. I think there was Mayor Guardian, when he left it, he felt pretty good about having a potential buyer, as you mentioned earlier, for Showboat. They thought, and I think anybody interested in buying a casino for 10 cents on the dollar, what a buy it is today if you have that kind of money. I mean, what did the Revelle cost? $2.3 billion? If you can buy it for 200 or 300,000, I'm sure someone's going to pick it up.
Million, I guess you mean.
Million, I
I
mean,
was going
thank
to
you
say,
for
I
correcting
could
me.
I'll
step
pick
in
it up
there.
for 200,000.
I could
You
step
can
in there.
understand- You can understand how far
Mike
my
Colazzo
thinking
was
goes,
chopping
right?
at the bit.
You were selling.
I'm there, right?
Time Fitness, right? Yeah, right then. Yeah, well, what's your brokerage name?
But
Right, folks.
if I might just add one thing to that, we talk about Atlantic City and what Atlantic City has to do, but I know in the times I've attended the mayor's talks, he has emphasized, and I think we should all keep in mind,
Yes, right.
that we have to work as a region. This is not just an Atlantic City problem, it's a regional problem, and one of the things that need to be done when visitors visit Atlantic City, they need to be made aware of what the region offers. They need to know about the mall over here, they need to know about the Cove, they need to know about the
Skating rink.
skating rink, they need to know about the zoo, they need to know all of this stuff, about the aquarium, and we've got to do a better job. Atlantic City, the whole area has got to do a better job of really selling this area,
And
because
we,
it is a regional problem, and we've got to do something. We've got to provide the transportation for people also when they come here.
Well, and you know yourself, Rodney, you were involved with building one. The focus on that was transportation, jobs, right?
That's right.
And a lot of that has always been touted even before there was a casino issue. So, I mean, this area has always needed to grow in that manner, but hopefully it'll change. And I think now that you have a lot of people looking at it, it may happen.
Roger, you mentioned about the layoffs. It was on the news the other day that they're approaching the 6-month layoff date from the closing of Atlantic Club, and with no extensions of unemployment, as you just said, people that are laid off from Atlantic Club are now reaching the end of their unemployment. They will have no income.
No, and you're right, and that's the worry. What do you do at the end of that? So, I've been there before, and I understand that it hurts, so.
Before you open up to the public, just speaking of business expansion, Brownie Squared is opening up the upstairs beginning tomorrow, which is their breakfast and lunch buffet. that they'll be having daily. So it's a pretty exciting expansion for them as a little local business on Main Street. So everybody get out and check out Brownie Square's new venture called Upstairs, because it's upstairs. And it's really awesome stuff.
How about the Laureldale Pub?
Laureldale Pub and Grill should be coming in a few weeks. I have a tentative
Nice.
date from the owner, but it's not confirmed yet, so we are anxiously waiting in Laureldale, for
There you
sure.
go.
I thought it was imminent, Amy. That was my information. Imminent, not weeks, imminent.
Yeah, I mean,
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. With that, I'll open it up to the public. Jenny?
It's unusual for me, as you know.
Take your
And
time
I
and
just
get the
got back from
microphone. That's it.
vacation, so thank you. I'm Jenny Ayers, Regent Circle in Mays Landing, and forgive me because I wrote this while I was on vacation, so my granddaughter wasn't happy with me at one point while Grandma had her pad out. I'm here tonight because over the past few weeks and months, I've been puzzled and upset by what's been happening in the township that I've grown to call home. I was honored to play a role with former committee members Dr. Kesselman, Charles Kane, many of you, and a host of people from the community on the township strategic plan. I'm deeply saddened by what's been going on and have struggled with whether or not to even be here tonight. But I'm a big believer in you don't get to complain unless you voice your opinion. Same thing with voting. If you don't vote, then don't complain to me because you didn't exercise it, and I feel really strongly about that. Our community is blessed to have people like you at the helm who care and have been dedicating themselves to reducing the debt, increasing our bond rating, and showing fiscal accountability. The committees like Smart Growth and Fiscal Accountability and all the others that worked on the strategic plan, people said we couldn't do it, and we did, and you did. You exercised those rights, and you made it work for us. The township still cut expenses when people said we couldn't do it, and continued to provide the needed services, and I thank you for that. You're a model for other townships, and Dr. Kesselman has said that many times, that what was done here is something we hope to emulate, or should emulate, in other communities. Now, the hard part for me. I know all of you, and I sit here sometimes and I feel like I'm watching a sitcom. And it frustrates me. People of Hamilton Township deserve better. What I'm concerned about the most is the staff. I know a lot of them. I see them when I'm out. I hear them complaining. I hear their upsetness. And as a former HR and corporate trainer, the physical health and mental stability of the staff is critical. As many of you know, you own businesses or as you run the township. If workplace harassment is the perception of the employee, then what's going on has to stop, because your employees are upset. And I know you all know that. And it's the perception of that employee. I've been in that position. I know what it's like to feel that your boss is hawking over your head, making you feel uncomfortable, doesn't want to hear your opinions, and it really can lead to undue stress, can result in sickness, reduced staff, and pressure on everyone, which is just unacceptable. These staff issues also impact the fiscal health of the township, which I believe is important as well. It's my understanding, and believe me, I only have superficial information, so I don't have, actual numbers. I do have numbers, but I don't know how accurate they are. But according to the Bureau of Vital Statistics, if we lost 4 full-time and 3-time employees since all of this started a few months back, they say that the separation of employees, COBRA, exit interviews, the loss of productivity, work-related stress of the current employees, the cost to find and replace an employee, advertising, interviews, training new employees, is costly. For all jobs earning less than $50,000 a year, the Bureau of Vital Statistics says 40% of them are in the range of $35,000 and under. 20% of their annual salary has to go to replacing them. So if I use an average of $35,000 for the cost of replacing an employee, it will be approximately $7,000. If we've lost 4 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees because of lawsuits and other things that are going on, it's already cost us almost $40,000. This doesn't factor in the actual wages of the empty positions, stipends for current employees to pick up additional work, or the number of times a position will turn over due to the distension in town hall or in the current working environment. It can get I can't even begin to measure the effect. You see, this really bothers me. As an HR person, it really does affect me. I can't even begin to measure the effect that it's having on your current employees. Fiscal accountability begins with all of you. While we all know that the tax ratables are going to go up due to the number of tax appeals and things that are happening that we have no control over, all right? The public needs to know the following impacts as well that are happening. Unfortunately, Aileen, your lawsuit settlement was $25,000. The attorney fees of almost $10,000 related to the above. Our township attorney fees day-to-day related to that is approximately $11,000. The Birchmere attorney fees, if I calculated right, were $8,000. And then the staff turnover of approximately $40,000. The current cost to taxpayers' dollars is almost $100,000. This is ridiculous. We're having a tough time in this economy as it is. And when I came back from vacation and heard that there were other lawsuits and tort claims, and one from our administrator, which could run into hundreds of thousands or even the low millions, I was enraged. I just didn't know what to do or where to turn, so I felt as though I needed to come tonight. As I said earlier, fiscal accountability begins with all of you. However, there's one person who is responsible for what happens next. Aileen, I didn't want this to get personal, but I thought you were a friend. I came to call you friend. We sat on the Cove Committee together. I helped you get elected, and I'm disappointed. There's a balance to being a leader for everyone, not just you. While I once admired your passion during our previous work together, I have come to lose respect and regret helping to put you in that seat. You have allowed your ego to get in the way of the good of the whole, refused to work as a team, and have taken the hardworking people of this township and forced them to choose sides and split this building in half. In my opinion, you make a mockery of working for the people and turned it into working against them by costing this township $100,000, with more to come. In light of all that's transpired, I am both puzzled and baffled. I know in your heart you love this community and you're passionate about it. I truly do, but your actions say otherwise. How can you call yourself the people's candidate is just beyond comprehension to me. And I really believe if the tables returned, you'd be asking for resignations. And I really think that you maybe need to reconsider that for yourself. Thank you for your time. I'm so sorry that I'm so passionate about this and upset about it, but I appreciate you giving me time to speak.
Mrs. Ayers, can you send me a copy of that, please? Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Jim?
Roger, I have a question about the neighborhood plan for historic Maze Landing. Is that on the website?
The plan for what, Jim?
The Maze Landing neighborhood plan for a historic Maze
It's not done
Landing.
yet.
Oh, it isn't done yet.
We're just
That's the
getting
one
ready to
for the
start it.
Historical Center.
If we get the grant, we're going to start it. We haven't started it yet.
May I have a copy?
Yes, when it's, what was on the agenda tonight, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, if we get the grant, we're going to do that plan. We haven't done it yet. It's not done.
Oh, I thought you had something over there. Can I?
No, that's from the last. You can, if you don't have that, we can certainly get you the presentation that was given at that meeting a few months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll absolutely get that to you.
All right, thanks a lot. And about Atlantic City, what they need to do is get a minor league baseball team.
Jimmy loves his baseball.
Remember the surf?
Yeah.
Yep.
It didn't work out.
If it were in this township, it'd still be viable.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate your comments.
I still wear my surf gear, by the way.
All the time, we see you in it with the hat.
Yeah.
Anyone else in the public?
Water Park.
My name is Peggy Capone. I live on Oak Street in Laureldale. And thank you, Amy. That was a nice endorsement for Chris Groom.
I'm like, I didn't endorse you.
I came as well. I don't like a pile on, but I also had something that had come to my attention that really bothered me. Considering this doesn't apply to me, I have a small business. I'm the president of the company, so it's a woman's business, and I have a majority of the share of the business. And in these times, trying to run a small business to be detrimental to a business, it's troubling. Like, Judy Link has, as we're all aware, a roller skating rink. She's a Democrat. I'm Republican. My daughter loves her skating rink. Can you imagine me saying to Cece, you're not going there because she's a Democrat? Well, it was brought to my attention that a member of Township Committee has been discouraging business from Brownie Square. This person on Township Committee has been telling elderly citizens within our community not to do business there because the owner is a Democrat. This is quite disturbing for several reasons. Does this Township Committee person understand their salary is paid indirectly by this business? Does this Township Committee person understand this business gives jobs to local residents, gives donations to multiple organizations, and helps keep this area from becoming blighted? If this wasn't enough, this person had the gall to attend the free neighborhood barbecue sponsored by Brownie Square. I would like to know, does this action by this Township Committee person open the door to another possible lawsuit against this township in regards to this Township Committee's behavior? You can't answer that, right?
Not going to.
So Aileen, I would like to know why you would do this.
I won't dignify it with an answer.
I thought so.
Anyone else in the
Mrs.
public wish to
Capone, I ask you the same as I did Mrs. Ayers. Can you give me a copy?
Anyone else in the public wish to speak? Mike?
I don't have a prepared speech, mine be fast, just
Is your place for sale? Do you buying the
I'm selling
casino?
memberships.
No, okay.
Mike Palazzo, Anytime Fitness, I also sit on the Merchants and the Industrial Committee. In light of, we were talking about the businesses, is anyone paying attention to what New York's doing?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we should just take note and a page from their playbook. I'm very pro-business, as you all know, and I personally think that we can do a lot more to be proactive and be, right now, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of townships competing for businesses. I can't tell you how many of them approach me to, move my business or open another location. So I'd like to see us become that town because we have so much potential, and I think we're underutilized. We have all these beautiful locations and walkways, and you mentioned the bike paths. There are little things that we can do to become a little more attractive to businesses, and I think that we're not utilizing. We're busy fighting and squandering and spending taxpayer on pettiness, which is disappointing as a business owner and as a resident. I think we should all just take a page from New York's state of mind. They're actively recruiting businesses and residents, and I think that we can do that. If the businesses are here, then people need somewhere to live, and I think that that's a great way to prevent foreclosures. Instead of us playing defense, let's start playing some offense. Let's become proactive and build businesses and become attractive. When me as a business owner reads that there's a lawsuit, that makes me a little hesitant for expansion and possibly opening another business in this town. I can tell you, as a person who's sitting on the Industrial Commission, we're trying to bring businesses and make this place attractive. It almost makes us have to work twice as hard. So that's just my comment. I don't expect a response from that, but I hope that we can all take just pay attention to what New York's doing and possibly emulate or copy what they're doing to possibly do the same thing here. So thank you all. And
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else
thank
in the
you.
public? John?
I'm going to say, I'm unaware, but I think it's probably
Yeah, I
giving
know.
them tax abatements or something.
John Kurtz, president of the Mays Landing Merchants Association. I also have a business in town. I just wanted to touch real quick on a light note about our Wine Festival, which is coming up on the 28th and 29th of September. It's going to be a very positive event, and actually I'll have more information on it that I'll present probably at another meeting coming up. But the reason I wanted to step up is to mention that you have had a little discussion going there for a while about Atlantic City, and I just want to mention that as a child, a young adult, I worked in Atlantic City in the tourism industry for many years in a place called Captain Starnes. We carried 2.5 million people a summer up and down the beachfront between the fishing fleet and the sightseeing boats. The minute resorts came into town, they bought up the gentleman that provided the biggest part of the ticket sales to that operation and closed it down. And since then, Atlantic City did nothing. I mean, they had gaming sprouting up all over, but they ignored the family content of Atlantic City and the community spirit. And that's what broke. And when something like that, when the community spirit's broken, everything else seems to go down the tubes, and that's what happened in Atlantic City. The casinos didn't want people riding boats, even walking on a boardwalk. They wanted them in the casinos, pulling the handles and betting on the tables. And that mentality is what I believe drove quite a bit of what's happening in Atlantic City right now. And what we have in Hamilton Township is something I wish, you can see a little bit of it now starting to reemerge in Atlantic City. We have a community spirit that is absolutely amazing here. You can tell it by all our events, the people that come out, the thank yous you get, people wanting to pay for something that's for free and can't imagine that they're getting it for free, and the enthusiasm about their township residents when they come to these events. So it's very positive, and we all need to be commended for that happening. And it's something that I think with the concerts that they had over in Atlantic City, and now the people who revitalized the Steel Pier, those are the things that need to come back in Atlantic City before anything else can happen there. I really feel that way. And we're very fortunate to already have that happening in our township. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, John? If you don't mind? Have you had an opportunity to provide that kind of feedback to the Atlantic City folks?
Well, I have a longtime friendship with Mayor Guardian, and I was at a meeting this past week where he was there, and we had an opportunity to talk about it. So he shares some of my feelings, most of my feelings, and he's aware of the fact that the family unit, the family entertainment portion of Atlantic City is what was let go, and he's devoted to bring that back. And I believe that's part of the reason you're seeing some of the events and things that are happening over there now, and you're going to see more of them. So I have reached out a little bit to the people that I still know over there and shared my vision, but it looks like it might be trying to go that way, but it's not just all about the casinos.
John, I have a question.
Absolutely.
You said resorts bought, I didn't catch, what did resorts?
There was an entity on the boardwalk in Atlantic City that, you could call it the hook. They grabbed people off the boardwalk, put them in little minibuses, and took them down the inlet to Captain Storms for a speedboat ride, fishing boat
Hackney's
trip.
was down there,
Hackney's,
Garbage Mills
Captain
was down
Storms.
there.
So they were a vehicle to get hundreds of thousands of people
Yeah,
over the
they
summer
need
off
that.
the boardwalk, down to the inlet section where Captain Storms, Hackney's, and those other businesses were, to get them to partake in that.
So they bought that
businesses.
transportation system and put it out of
That's
business?
correct, yes.
Okay, I didn't quite understand what they
Yeah.
bought.
And that's right. And when that part went down, it couldn't sustain itself. You had to be able to get the people from the boardwalk part of town down to those locations. And that's really what kind of drove that situation to start the way it did. And then, of course, the property still lays there vacant where Captain Storms was.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing to understand that over 2.5 million people visited that property over the course of the summer.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else in the audience? Mr. Rogers?
He's gonna-
Harry Rogers, 1069 Morningside Drive. Mr. Sandman, if I may direct a question to the solicitor. Not how much, but how many filed against the township or within the township pertaining to this harassment nonsense? Can you give us a number of how many are currently open? We have one that's closed, I know that. How many others are open?
One that I can think of.
One you can think of. We've heard talk tonight that we're spending incredible amount of money on what it can only be described as foolishness perpetrated by Ms. Dix. I would suggest that each meeting, as part of your agenda, that appears on the agenda how much we've wasted to date on this back and forth nonsense. The people of the township have a right to know we're paying for it. I would ask you to consider doing that. A couple of weeks ago, I came to the microphone when there was an outrageous statement by Ms. Dix talking about the, how much was or how much wasn't in cash in this building at any given time with regards to tax collections, which I thought was extremely irresponsible. I asked that that be stricken from the videotape. Was that done?
I'll answer that. It was not done. I was requested as to whether it could not be done, or whether it could be done. And the answer is that whatever happens here is set forth in a formal record. No one sitting there, not me, not anybody out here, can undo the words that have been said in a public meeting. They're recorded. In this case, they're televised. So the answer is...
That's just not the case. I personally have been edited out. My comments were personally edited out. And it was brought to my attention by a certain Mrs. Sandman.
Well, I certainly can't speak for that individual.
I mean, it goes back some time, but there is precedent.
But I
for
would
it
say
has been
this
done.
much, I am a better lawyer than she is, for the record. No, but seriously, Harry, whether or not it gets included in the minutes is one thing. Whether it can be excised from the public record, the answer is it cannot. However, I would point out this. Whether or not you deemed it inappropriate, I did stop Ms. Dix at some point because I was concerned. For the record, the vast majority of the money in the collector's office, and I'm going to venture a guess, it's over 90%, is in checks. It's not cash.
Good, and I'm glad it is.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to be, well, like you say, you stopped her from, at some point in that conversation. It should have been stopped. It was completely irresponsible.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir, you did. Thank you for the time with the mic.
Thank you for your
Would you please consider, before I close, please consider my suggestion that the agenda carry a running total of what this foolishness is costing us? Please? Would you discuss that amongst yourselves? Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Eddie, I hear a lot of nonsense. I hear a lot of people, arguing, blaming. Everybody has a right to do. I'm not going to take any sides on anything. None of yous are my friends. So let's just clear that right now.
Mr. Mayor, I think she should identify herself.
Oh, I apologize. My name's Chris Ayer. Okay? I'm not here to bash anybody, and I'm not here to hear anybody get bashed. I'm here to know about business, what's going on with the township and with the money and the taxes and everything else. You guys don't want to get along with each other? That's fine. Work together. That's all I ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.